For the world's 1.8 billion Muslims, the holy month of Ramadan has taken on new meaning amid the coronavirus pandemic. What was once a time to gather by the thousands to pray and break their fast has been replaced with the new reality of social distancing. Although mosques have closed across Turkey and the world, Muslims are finding unique ways to ensure this holiday stays as true to form as possible. And to discuss that, I'm joined by Mutaz Al-khatib, who is an assistant professor at Hamad bin Khalifa University's College of Islamic Studies in Doha, Qatar. Mutaz, welcome to Straight Talk. It's good to have you here. So we're already in a week into Ramadan. Generally, Ramadan involves a number of community gatherings ranging from Tarawih, the evening prayers in mosques, and iftars where people, families and loved ones get together. But amid the COVID-19 pandemic, Ramadan has taken on a new meaning. How does it look like now?
Thank you very much for this invitation to me for being with you and your audience. First of all, I would like to stress that this pandemic is not a unique. Maybe it's a unique for us in this current time, but during the history we witnessed a series of plagues and pandemics, and this was reflected in a huge literature on plagues, which reflected Islamic historical experience. And in this literature, we can find a lot of discussions which has a multifaceted character that addresses scriptural, theological, juristic discussions, etc. So. And scholars were in the classical time were busy with different questions, such as performing religious rituals that you are asking about. So it's not an easy situation to live in this context and difficult times for people. Especially if they don't have an idea about the history, what happened, the history.
Yes.
So in these discussions, I usually the key question here is what to do in such a situation.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you about this because we know that many Islamic holidays have a heavy social aspect to it. So how do you think the Muslims will manage to adapt to the new normal since the virus will be around for some time?
I think there is a positive aspect of this situation, that people, it's a good chance for people to go back to their selves, and to even though that it's really hard to isolate yourself in the context of technology, but it's a good situation to do critical assessment, self-critical assessment, and reprioritize your priorities in life. As for worship during Ramadan, we have to be aware that Tarawih prayer is in principle performed at homes. It's a recommended action, and it should be performed at home. And this is a good chance for individuals to take their responsibilities and to strengthen their moral conscience, individual conscience.
We also, and currently there are lots of virtual gatherings, we know that. But tell me how difficult it is for older generations to adapt to that as well, because they're not very well accustomed with the technology.
I think this is a good chance for them to train themselves and to depend on themselves, not to just follow the imams or just going for gathering prayers or even Friday prayers. In the Islamic jurisprudence, we have a huge chapter on what we call it rukhas or a'dhar, causes that allow people, allow individuals to not go for the usual actions, religious actions, and to find alternatives, many alternatives that which is available and accessible for everybody.
Okay. On the other hand, we also see anti-Muslim propaganda seeping into online discourse about this coronavirus, especially in India, the US and the UK. Some far-right groups, especially in US, have spread anti-Muslim propaganda, saying that the churches in the country will be forced to close during this pandemic, but the mosques will remain open. And India, some extremists scapegoated the Muslim population by saying that they're deliberately spreading the virus. So has coronavirus been made yet another tool for xenophobia and Islamophobia, and how to deal with that?
I think this is a very important point, even because in the secular bioethical discussions and even the Western media, there was much focus on the actions made by churches and mosques. But nobody was, or at least, the discussion about the sport activities and other gatherings were not so much focused on. And then this is a kind of bias against the Muslim rituals, because at the end we have many activities and gathering activities where still remain and inactive,
Yes.
So this is a very important point here. But at the same time, we have to be aware that this is not the first time that mosques and even Hajj cancellations. This is not the first time that we witnessed this.
I was going to ask you that. Could it be possible for Hajj to be cancelled this year?
Yes, this happened in the past. This happened many times. We know for different reasons. But the new issue here now, the new issue that Hajj cancellation was not because of the fear of contagion. This is a very important point here. Contagion was one of the key issues, controversial issues in the history. In the past, because of the available and accessible medical information at that time, but now there's no question about contagion. But, yeah. So, but in the 19th century, for example, Hajj was cancelled because of plague and cholera, for example. So we have what happened in 1831. Between 1837 and 1858, there was a series of epidemics, and Hajj was cancelled because of these epidemics.
All right, Mutaz, unfortunately, we're out of time. Thank you very much for joining us on Straight Talk.